Alright, so I've had a request on how I like to trade counter order flow within a price lag. Specifically, more or less, the schematic that you see right here. And the gist of that for me, I'm just trying to spread this out a bit here, is ideally I want to be trading pro order flow down these legs, right? Trading 15-minute order flow up until, we'll say here, and up until what you'd be in what is probably like a 15-minute demand zone from when order flow shifted here. And I'll take entries down into, somewhere in and around here, right? And I might take a partial here, target a demand. There's a whole separate video on that. So this is just going to be on what I'm looking for to be taking a counter order flow entry in this leg rather than pro order flow. And it's pretty simple. Basically, I'm looking for an unmitigated POI with some stacked liquidity below it that just looks painfully obvious, like it was left behind for a counter order flow trade. Alright, I'm back. So, this is incredibly hard to do, and I hope anyone watching this in the future appreciates how long it took me and how many shots I had to take at making this drawing that still isn't perfect, and the OCD in me is not happy about it. But that's neither here nor there. We're going to roll with it. It is what it is. So basically, in the other video, I was explaining how, let's say your POI was up here and you came in. Let's add one more here. Okay, so we came up into our 4-hour POI. We had a 15-minute offer, and this would have been your ideal in the 4-hour zone entry in here, right? So the premise of the other video is, let's say you didn't catch this entry, and I'm just going to touch on this briefly, and if you want that video, if you're watching this, let me know, I can send it to you. And it was that if I don't get in up here within the 4-hour POI, right, I'm still willing to take entries down this leg up until a point. So I'm willing to take entries down this leg, 15-minute pro order flow, up until a point, right? And I touched on that in the other video. It's probably about here that I'm going to stop taking entries because I want to get a partial off here at the week low and probably target some area demand over here. That's in the other video, so I'm not going to rehash that. Now, in terms of counter order flow entries, the majority of what I trade these days is pro order flow. I will trade counter order flow only when it's painfully obvious. So I would take any of these orders. Let's say I missed this one because it's not in my session and my day starts here. My alert goes here, I'm taking this order. Or if my day starts here, I'm taking this order. Or if it starts here, I'm taking this order. And so on and so forth. Now, for counter order flow, the way I'm doing this is I'm still willing to take the order, but I want it to be essentially a perfect scenario. So we leave one POI unmitigated. Now, let's pull this guy up a little bit because it looks more reasonable. We'll put that guy in there. So now, at this point, right, price is right here. And we've got these little mitigations, but we've left this guy up here perfectly unmitigated. And now he's got stacked liquidity inducement here like this, right, amongst these three highs. So I'm willing to trade this guy. We come up into here. I'm probably butting this POI right up to my inducement, something like that. And I'm more than happy to come up into here and take a counter order flow entry. And now it's killing me that this looks so terrible. And then I would expect order flow to keep going. I'm not a TradingView artist, so cut me some slack. To keep going something like this, pro order flow downward, right? God damn. And we get these POIs and down we go. So this is what I want for counter order flow, right? Is something like this. We're getting nice, efficient price action. We're mitigating everything. and then we leave this guy unmitigated, seemingly on purpose, right? And we run a few respected areas in here, which leaves us with some liquidity inducement. So people entered. The premise here, not to get too far into this, is this, right? So we're coming down, someone entered here, they entered here, they entered here, they entered here. And now when this happens, people enter here, and people enter here. And there's resting limit orders here, that's how liquidity works, right, from people who wanted to play in this zone. And there's resting stop losses all right here where that liquidity line is. Those are the stop losses from the people who entered here and here. They serve as inducement, liquidity to take, into this POI would be inducement. We're going to induce people into selling here. And these serve as liquidity to take into this POI. And that is my ideal counter order flow setup. So then we come up into here, and I mean, if we're what I refer to commonly as 1 or 2 levels of counter order flow, which is, you know, we've taken out 1 or 2 highs here, like 2 POIs have been taken out, and there's nothing else unmitigated above. This is all mitigated. There's no reason to come up here. All that's unmitigated is this guy. I would look for a refinement and potentially do the tap, sweep, and momentum order. More often than not, I'm going to wait for the 1 minute offer in here and then try to get in here and go. But if it's just painfully clear like this, you know, we have nothing else unmitigated above, then I'm also willing to take the momentum entry option. And then in theory, after we come up here and I get my counter order flow order flow is going to align back here, and we're just going to keep on going with efficient price action, right? Because the market wants to be efficient, right? When you look at the market, it's just mostly a bunch of triangles on one angle or another, all right? Whenever something like this gets left behind, it's not long before price comes up and fills it, right? It's very rare that something like that gets left and price just keeps going all the way down. So if we just have this one left, everything else is efficient, liquidity to take, all of our criteria is met in here in the terms of POI takes liquidity, is in the premium of this leg. I guess this leg would be here to here, is in the premium of this leg, so on and so forth, right? Your POI selection criteria is met. Then I'm happy to take that counter order flow trade. Now, conversely, let's pretend that we didn't tap in to this POI up here. We have another counter order flow POI right here. Again, this drawing is going to get kind of fucky here, but it is what it is. Now I'm less confident in this guy because there's something left up here as well. If it's going to break expectational order flow on the 15 and stop respecting highs, then in theory it's just as likely to come up here as it is there, right? So this is less ideal for me. In this case, I'm probably wanting to see all of this get run and take my counter order flow trade from in here. So I would wait for an offer for sure in here, possibly an offer and then a level of respect. So, because counter order flow trades aren't a big part of my life anymore, right? There's not really a need for it, I find, unless it's painfully obvious. Like this, right? We've left one in this entire 4-hour leg. These are 15-minute structure. We've left this one guy unmitigated. We've induced him perfectly with the stop losses of the people who entered here. And there's everything above him is mitigated, right? Everything is very efficient except for this guy. And that is my ideal counter order flow situation. Now bear in mind that the reason when your counter order flow, you can trade from a flip zone in here, like this should really be a 15-minute POI. I don't know why I have that marked as low time frame. So let's pretend all of these are 15-minute POIs. Can you change all these in one go? Alright, that's better. I don't know why I had those marked as low time frame POIs. Don't judge me for that. It is what it is. But when your counter order flow, so I want to add in a thing here. You got to get a little more aggressive sometimes with the counter order flow, right? The reason why we're able to play a flip zone counter order flow, whereas pro order flow we're only playing beyond the last point of inducement, which by definition is going to be the extreme, right? Because whatever you start below your POI, like your flip would be inducement. So the extreme would be the last point of inducement. The reason why you can do this counter order flow is because of all this liquidity right here that we're going to take on the way up to this POI. All the stop losses from the people who entered here and here and here. All of this liquidity that's taken out means that when we come in here and we get our reaction, price is going to leave there in a hurry. Whereas with 15-minute pro order flow, there's no 15-minute liquidity really in this leg to be taken. No structural liquidity anyway, because that's the definition of pro order flow, is that structure is holding. So you're waiting up higher pro order flow and you've taken less liquidity out of the market. So you've got a little more time here to go off for a first tap, sweep, whatever, right? And we're only playing from the last point of inducement. Counter order flow, things happen a little faster on this trade because of all the liquidity that we've taken out of the market across here. That's a whole different lesson. I'm just throwing that asterisk in there that this is my ideal counter order flow setup. And sometimes you've got to get a little aggressive, and that's built into the plan, right? That you can trade a flip rather than waiting for the extreme when you're counter order flow, so on and so forth. If we got one level like this and it's a nice flip with inducement, I'll do my tap, sweep, and momentum. If I can, I will cover the high of the whole POI. If I can't or it's unreasonable, I will cover this, and if I have to enter again here, then so be it, right? If you're going to double your stop loss covering the high, then it doesn't make sense, right? You're cutting your R in half. So let's say you're aiming at a 10-hour trade, and to put your stop loss here means it's only a 5-hour trade. I'd rather lose 1 hour here, re-enter here, still get my 10R, minus 1, and go home with 9R, than make my stop loss massive and just take 5. Right, but that's also a whole nother video. So those are my thoughts on my ideal counter order flow setup. Whether it's from the extreme, the flip, whatever, it comes down to on the 15 minutes something like this, right? Nothing on mitigated above, some mitigated levels here to take where other people have been induced into taking sells. Their stop losses will fuel our orders, and down we'll go. And that's pretty much it.